Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here, got another Master Duel video for you. Coming back at you with some Spright action, of course, especially now that the latest ban list is in effect. And while it might not have had a huge impact for a lot of people, for me and for every other Spright enjoyer out there, Spright starter going to 3 is massive. Huge W for the Spright deck. Awesome to get that acknowledgement from Konami that, you know, the deck is still worth paying attention to and not worth hitting incidentally, you know. It did get hit incidentally on the ban list before last one, of course, when both Dark Beckoning Beasts and Opening of the Spirit Gates both went to 2. These were both one-card starters for a full Spright end board. But, you know, after losing one of each of the copies of those, getting a third Spright starter back, I think, is definitely ideal. So, with that, I believe we are at 10 one-card starters for the deck. So, Dark Beckoning Beast is, like I said before, a one-card play into a Spright board by itself. So that's 2. The Opening of the Spirit Gates might not look like it, but actually is a full Spright combo. You simply activate this, search, and then summoning the Beckoning Beast, right? Then you link off the Beckoning Beast for Almirage. And then, of course, Beckoning Beast will get you the other opening, right? You link off the Beckoning Beast for Almirage, you used your first opening on field to discard the one in hand, bring back Dark Beckoning Beast that's in the graveyard, link them into Elf, Bring back Beckoning Beast, overlay into Gigantic for blue, Jet, and now you have Spright plays. So, so that's 4 right there, right? The Nightmare Thrones also add the Beckoning Beast, so that's 7, and then 3 Spright starters makes a total of 10. So, not necessarily the most, right? You would definitely, ideally want to have about a dozen one-card starters in this meta in order to, like, really be able to keep up, but 10 is still close enough, right? And it definitely is nice to get one back after losing, again, one of each of the Beckoning Beasts and the Opening of the Spirit Gates. So, I decided to stick with Yubel Spright. I'm not actually sure whether this or Adventure Spright is better. I am honestly inclined to say that this is probably the better variant, simply for the fact that, like, Yubel and Adventure Spright put out very similar boards. Of course, the main difference that the Adventure Spright deck is going to have the token and the Wandering Griffin right around the field. But I really don't like that the token takes up the main Monster Zone slot, right? Because in Spright, you are able to actually just literally fill your board, all 5 main zones, and the extra Monster Zone with 6 pieces of interaction, right? Well, I guess technically 5, depends on whether or not you consider the Spright Elf interaction, but in UL Spright, you know, in this build in particular, and you're gonna see games like this coming up where it's not hard for, you know, your Spright Elf and your EMZ and then your main Monster Zones to be occupied by, like, Red plus Carrot plus IP plus Phantom plus Melfi Caddy, right? 5 points of interaction. So the one thing I don't like about Adventure Spright is that the token eats up a slot on the board that could be interaction. The other thing about Adventure Spright that I'm not as big a fan of is that you have to play more bricks. We are technically playing bricks in this deck too, like we have the Yubel and the Spirit of Yubel, because we are playing those to help with the Nightmare Throne package, but and then the Melfis are kind of like inherently bricks, especially you don't want to open Caddy in a build where you're not playing Beaver, because like if you open Caddy, or rather Penny, you don't want to open Penny in a build where you're not playing Beaver, because then at that point the Melfi just is not worth going into at all. In a build with Nimble Beaver, you could grab the Caddy, and then still special, and then add the Beaver, and then still special Penny. But like I said, we're not playing Nimble Beaver here, because we're not on the Nimble package. You might think that Hero Kid would be a bit of a dead draw, but you actually don't mind opening this card at all. Like, if you opened Hero Kid, like obviously opening multiple copies would suck, but if you open just one Hero Kid, you can normal summon it, and then special a Spright monster, and then go into, you know, your plays, and then use the Elf to bring back the Hero Kid later. Hero Kid can also be discarded for Opening of the Spirit Gates, which is another way to get it into the graveyard. The main way that we get it into the graveyard is, of course, via Spright Sprint. And that's why we play Sprint in this deck. Sprint is kind of interesting when it comes to, you know, the Spright extra deck package in particular, because it's not a card you always play, right? Like every now and then, not often, but every now and then, I'll see a Spright build that's playing Sprint, but it's not playing Hero Kid or Nimbles or anything else that inherently wants to be sent from the deck to the graveyard. So you do need to have a good target in order to justify playing the Sprint. I don't really ever plan to leave this on the end board as an end board piece, just because like the bounce effect is like fine, but it's a little conditional, you know. I'm not the biggest fan of it personally, but yeah, no, the Hero Kit I think is definitely worth it. Again, it might look like a brick, but it's definitely not. It's mainly the Melfies and the U-Bells that we don't want to open with, and also Gamma Burst. And because we do have like a decent pool of cards that we don't want to open, that's why we're at 42 cards for the main deck. You could go down to 40. I'd probably just cut one of each of the Veilers and Imperms and just play a little bit less hand traps, but you could play 40 if you really wanted to. But I think 42 is a nice spot to land on here. Like I mentioned, we are on the U-Bells as well to get that Phantom out. I like it, honestly. I do think it is worth it. It's really easy to weave into your plays, as you'll see in the games that are coming up here, and also being able to insulate your end board, because a lot of the time you can just start by making Phantom really early in your combo line. You can also often, like, incidentally make it for free, right? Like, of course, you could just activate Nightmare Throne, you know, pop the Spirit, special U-Bell, make Phantom, and then, like, I don't know, activate Starter or something, right? Or you could leave that U-Bell on the field for a little bit and then link it off for something and then use it to make Phantom, getting an extra link material out of it. So that's also pretty nice when you can do that, right? Let's see here. Anything else to say about the build? Not really. I think most of it is pretty standard. So I'm going to go ahead and break it down card by card, and then we're going to look at some gameplay. So we're on 3 Effect Veiler, 3 Hero Kid, 3 Max C, 2 Dark Beckoning Beast, 1 Melfi Caddy, 2 Spright Blue, 2 Spright Jet, 2 Spright Red, 2 Spright Carrot, 1 Melfi Penny, 3 Ash Blossom Enjoy Spring, 1 U-Bell, 1 Spirit of U-Bell, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 3 Nightmare Throne, 2 Opening of the Spirit Gates, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 3 Sprite Starter. Oh, it feels so good to say that. 1 Sprite Gamma Burst, and then finally 3 Infinite Impermanence. That's going to be our 42 card main deck. For the extra, we're on 1 Phantom of U-Bell, 1 Herald of the Arclight, 1 Melfi of the Forest, 2 Gigantic Sprite, 1 number 2 Ninja Shadow Mosquito, 1 Doubted Magician, 1 Divine Arsenal Awe, Zeus, Sky Thunder, 1 Salamangreat Amirage, 1 IP Masquerena, 2 Sprite Elf, 1 Sprite Sprint, 1 SP Little Knight, and then finally 1 Mechanite Crusadia Avermax. That'll do it for this list. Let's go ahead and see these duels. Okay, so our first game, pretty predictably, is going to be against Tenpai. Looks like we ended up losing this coin flip, but they elected to go first, so we did know that it was going to be Tenpai going into it. Although this isn't really one of those decks where I think it really changes your game plan if you know that or not. So, gonna lead by opening with the Dark Beckoning Beast here, adding the opening of the Spirit Gates, activating opening for a second Dark Beckoning Beast, which I'm then going to extra normal summon thanks to the effect of the first one. I'm gonna link these two off. Rather than go for Gigantic, I'm actually gonna go for Sprint first. We're gonna activate Sprint's effect to dump the Hero Kid, and then we're gonna use opening, pitching the Spirit of the U-Bell. Opponent's going to finally throw out a Max C here. Don't know why they didn't do this before, but we'll simply Ash Blossom. It's not that big of a deal. So yeah, this is what I was talking about in the profile section earlier when I mentioned that a lot of the time you want to actually start by making Sprint and not Gigantic. So, going to use opening to get back the Dark Beckoning Beast. That's also what I was referring to earlier, by the way, when I touched upon using the U-Bell cards as material, or rather than like simply just, you know, shuffling them back. Like, we could have shuffled back the Spirit of U-Bell from hand, but here we're able to use it as a discard fodder for opening the Spirit Gates, then put it back from the graveyard into the deck. So definitely make sure you're getting use out of those U-Bell pieces, whether it's in hand to discard or on field as a material when possible, before you shuffle them back for Phantom. So Gigantic for Blue and Jet here. We're going to link off the Blue and Jet, going for our Sprite Elf. Going to use Elf's effect to bring back that Hero Kid we dumped earlier, and now we get to use the Hero Kid effect to summon the other 2 copies from deck. We can overlay a couple of them to go into our Melfi package here. Going to go for Melfi of the Forest. Melfi of the Forest after detaching one of those Hero Kids to add Caddy. Now we can link Melfi of the Forest off with the Hero Kid in order to make our IP Masquerena. From here, we're going to round out our end board by using Starter to go for Carrot, especially because I already have Phantom in play, set our Call By, and then special the Melfi Caddy in hand. I don't always leave the 3200 Gigantic on the field. In this case I did, but I will say that if I had even one more extender, what I would have done before, especially, you know, ending, especially in the caddy, of course, with this free monster zone, is I would have summoned my extender and then linked it off with Gigantic to then make the SP Little Knight. Because you can actually, and we'll have another game where we show this, you can end on both IP as well as the SP for your end board. And then in that case, you would just use IP to go into the Avermax. So having access to both Avermax and SP is very powerful. Alright, so they're going to lead with the Dora here. I'm not going to bother negating this. I'm just going to go for the Melfi Caddy. Opponent does have a Droplet. They're going to Droplet for 3. But I have 4 pieces of interaction here. Well, 5 if you count the call by as well. So this does not take care of everything. Looks like they're going to negate the IP, the Caddy, and the Phantom. So my Spright Carrot is still going to be live here. They end up adding the Genroku, which is perfect for me because we do have a call by the Grave face down. So opponent's going to attempt to activate the Genroku effect. We are, of course, simply going to use the Called by the Grave on it to negate it, and then we are pretty much good from there. I don't know, I'm trying to think, like, if they had had Shundra, that would have been really bad for me. I'm trying to think of what they could have followed up with on the drop that I couldn't have stopped, right? Because if they followed up with Pydra, that actually would have been fine, because I could have carroted either whatever they added, right? It doesn't matter. And Carrot has 1900 defense, so Pydra can't run over it and get rid of it first. But yeah, if they had had Shundra, that would have been, I think I would have just lost right there. Fadra wouldn't have done anything. Genroku, we had the ability to stop. Okay, so I think it would have taken exactly Shundra for them to be able to play through my board, even post-Droplet in that situation, where we had access to both Carrot and Call By. So, yeah, that's always worth noting. Trying to figure out, like, exactly what the best outs are against you is a good way of knowing how to play against your opponent's board in the future, right? That's why I like to stop and evaluate that post-game, even if it's a game like this where I won, like, okay, what situation would I have lost? So that way, again, I can know how to play out scenarios better in the future. Always trying to keep that stuff in mind. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at our next duel here. Okay, so in the last game, I alluded to being able to set up both IP and SP on your end board. If I recall correctly, we actually are going to do that in this game here against Fluanderies. We're going to win the coin flip this time, unlike last time, although we still went first last time anyway, so. Here we open a lot of the Fiend stuff, but I'm actually going to lead with the opening of the Spirit Gates and just see if that beats an Ash Blossom, because sometimes it does. So here, I'm going to use the Nightmare Throne to just add the U-Bell to hand. And I'm just going to summon the Phantom using the U-Bell and Spirit in hand. I know I said before that it's best to try to use them as materials first, and I guess I could have done that. Like, I could have normal summoned Beckoning Beast and then end up pitching one of them for opening. That probably would have been ideal, but at the same time, like I said, it is nice to have the Phantom insulating your combo line, so it's always that balancing act, right? Like, do I want to make use of the U-Bells as materials, try to anyway, or do I want to get the Phantom online before I do anything else to completely insulate my combo line from hand traps? So, I guess to be fair here, we can just opening pitch the other opening, so it's really not that big of a deal. Anyway, we got the Jet as well, so we're going to, of course, special summon that. Here I went for Gigantic first. I decided to try something a little bit different. Rather than Sprint, because I already have starters, so I already have access to blue, I'm like, let me try Giganticing for the Hero Kid and see how my end board differs. I actually don't know if it would have changed the end board at all here, but I'm going to use the Gigantic plus one of the Hero Kids to make Elf, and I'm going to use the other two to overlay for Melfi of the Forest. Melfi of the Forest will detach to add the Caddy. Now I can use Starter for blue, because I didn't open blue, I opened Jet. So we're going to go blue for Carrot here. Special the Carrot, link off blue plus Melfi of the Forest to make the IP Masquerena. Now keep in mind, I've not only not used opening yet, but I also haven't used Spright Elf yet either. So I'm going to use Elf to bring back Hero Kid, opening, pitch the other opening to bring back Dark Beckoning Beast, and now these two I'm going to end up linking off for the SP Little Knight. We'll throw down the Imperm and phase summon the Caddy. So there's another alternative turn 1 end board that you can pump out. Like I said, it's actually not impossible, not even really that difficult to get both the IP and the SP on your turn 1 end board. Which again is nice because then it means you can definitely go into the Avermax with the IP. It's also really nice to be able to make Avermax in the scenario where you set up the Melfi Caddy, because one of the most common outs to the Herald of the Arclight that the Melfi Caddy goes into is to simply battle over it. But if you have the Avermax on the field, your opponent can only battle with the Avermax, thus sparing your Herald, as well as your SP, which is also often commonly just battled over, right? Same with like your Spright monsters too, so... Alright, going into our opponent's turn here. We're going to throw down the Eaglin. I'm going to activate the Caddy F, and then I'll just use Imperm here. No need to use Phantom just yet. Want to stuff that Herald of the Arclight earlier if possible, right? And we can always just use Phantom later if we need more monster negation, so Caddy for Penny, Eaglin's negated, so no more extra normal summons. Penny F will activate to special, and then our opponent's just going to concede right there, so... There you go. There's a different turn 1 end board that you can set up. It's also very hard to break. We do actually have a bit more of an interactive game for this last one. I know these first two are me just like setting up on turn 1, but I did want to show just how explosive this deck's turn 1s are. Like, Spright is really easy to think of as one of those decks that's kind of like, you know, not that great because it's been hit a lot with the ban list, but one of those hits are coming undone, right? I think, are Blue and Jet at 2 the only Spright cards on the list now? I think they might, well, and Nimble Beaver to 1 if you count that, but, which I do. So anyway, but yeah, no, it's very, very scary deck. Spright can be very, very scary very easily. Anyway, let's go ahead and check out that last game here. And this game is actually going to be against Labyrinth, so let's see how we do here. I think we do end up winning this coin flip. I just looked at it, I should remember. Yeah, we do. Okay, so we're going to take the first turn. This hand is fine. I mean, it's not bad at all, actually. I'm gonna start with the Nightmare Throne here, and you might think I go for the Beckoning Beast. I'm actually gonna pop the Spirit of Yubel, because, like, I already have the Melfi Penny and multiple Spright monsters in hand, so I don't really feel like I need the Beckoning Beast in this situation to be able to set up. So I'm gonna link off the Penny and the Yubel to go for Sprint to start dumping Hero Kid here. Also, I do think that it is important, like, so this is another situation where, like, again, I could have set up Phantom of Yubel right away, but I didn't in this case because we had access to the Spright Red in addition to the blue, right? Now, if it was just red and Sprint here, I'd be a little more weary about, like, you know, going into this line without going to Phantom first, because our opponent could throw out, like, Ash Blossom, and sure, I could use Spright Red to send off Sprint to negate it and still get my Hero Kid dump, but then I only have the Spright Red and no other bodies on the board, right, in that hypothetical scenario. So, very glad to have both blue and red here. And now that both Yubels are in the graveyard, now I can shuffle them back for the Phantom. So, like I mentioned before, we're going to dump off the Hero Kid, and then we'll special the Gigantic. Funnily enough, Gigantic doesn't really have much to grab here, so I ended up just grabbing a Carrot. Oh, also, because we opened Penny, we're not going to go for Melfi plays this game, because like I mentioned in the deck profile portion, we're not playing Nimble Beaver. So unfortunately, in this build, if you open Penny, then Caddy does end up being dead. But that's really not that big of a deal, as you see here. That's one nice thing about Spright and why it can get away with playing Garnets like Penny and Hero Kid if you view it as a Garnet. I kind of don't, but... because even if they don't end up doing anything else, those monsters are, if nothing else, level 2s, right? Meaning that you can go into them, or you can special Spright monsters with them, right? So here we got that full turn 1 end board with the 5 disruptions in the 5 main monster zones, as well as an Imperm, and of course the Elf in the EMC. So definitely pretty well set up against our opponent here, but they're actually just going to simply start with the... Oh, no, that was a different game, sorry. I thought they were going to set 5. No, they're going to lead with Ecclesia here. You'll notice that okay, a couple of things about this play here. You'll notice that I waited until the Ecclesia hit the board, because I want to mainly stop the search, right? So I might as well wait until that effect resolves rather than popping it when it tries to special itself from hand. I also sent off IP Masquerena, which normally this would be fine, because, like, I'm about to use my Elf to bring back the Masquerena anyway. And if I were going into SP, that would be fine. But something that I did fail to remember here when I was doing this play is that Avermax does specifically need to use monsters special summoned from the extra deck as a material. So if you sack off IP and then bring it back like I did here, this IP is no longer considered special summoned from the extra deck because it was last special summoned from the graveyard. So this IP can no longer go into the Mech Knight Crusader Avermax here. So that was a little bit of a misplay on my part. I have enough interaction that I don't really think it's going to end up mattering, but still wanted to make that clear. So Now that I think about it, I probably should have just impermed the Ecclesia instead of trying to pop it. I don't know why I wanted to pop it so badly. Maybe I thought I was playing it stun or something, but anyway. Our opponent's going to summon a Lady Lab and then set a couple of cards and then pass here. They're going to flip up Welcome Lab. I'll negate it with Carrot, even though we know they have a big Welcome Lab face down, which, yeah, it's going to get flipped up right here. My thought process was that, you know, I could use the Phantom to negate the Lady here, but also that I was kind of thinking about using, well, I was thinking about using SP to banish, but that only works if they flip up their last card. I could also just use the Imperm on the Lovely Lab. It's really not that big of a deal. Especially since once we Imperm the Lovely Lab, then the only thing that we really have to deal with is the face down card. Opponent doing a very good job of chain blocking with the Chandragolier there. Otherwise, if they hadn't, I could have used red to sack off either Elf or Little Knight and then pop, or negate and pop the Lady, or Lovely Lab, rather. So, alright, summoning out that U-Bell again off the Spirit. Going into my main phase here, I'm going to use Elf's effect to bring back Jet. Opponent flips up their last card, Call By, try to stop me from getting that Jet there. So, the opponent only has one unknown card, because we know one of the two cards in hand is the Chandragolier, so... Alright, from here, I'm going to go into the Gigantic. Going to activate Gigantic's effect for the Jet. Jet F is negated. That's right, because I was going to try to grab the Gamma Burst and go for the OTK, but then I was like, oh yeah, you got called by, duh. So, a little bit of an oopsie on my part. It's not really that big of a deal, though, because like even though we don't have lethal here, I already have Red and Little Knight as interactions. Then during my opponent's turn, I can Elf to bring back Carrot. My opponent's got 3 cards. I know one of them is Chandragolier. Yeah, I'm really not worried about this situation very much, so alright, that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. So again, love celebrating the fact that we got the 3rd starter back. Huge W for Sprites, and I was going to say expect more Sprite deck profiles this season, but I'm pretty sure y'all are just ready to expect that from me anyway, so... Alright, thanks as always for watching. Let's just go ahead and move now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's, again, free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up, and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out. But more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.